started our topic today on precious metals, but now I want to talk about the other precious metal. The precious metal either nobody takes seriously or takes too seriously. There seems to only be two camps on this one. I am going to talk about silver. Now, there was the silver squeeze of 2021 that really didn't happen. There's a little bit of, people not understanding how hard it is to push a $1 trillion market around. Nearly spilt my coffee. So what you've got coming up, I want to talk a little bit about this because on February 11th, so a month from today, incidentally, you will be hosting a silver boot camp. Now, tell me, given the abundance of misinformation available on silver on the internet, what is this silver boot camp going to teach people?
I do boot camps, Shay, when I think a commodity is both due for a rebound and is unpopular. You'll recall the uranium boot camp, which I did last year. Another metal where there was substantial misinformation available to investors. Those people who were buying uranium, like those people who were buying silver, were often doing it for the wrong reasons. They had information around the market which was causing them to make a mistake. Make no mistake yourself. When something is out of favor, it's cheap. And the time to buy something is when it's cheap. If you look back at silver over time, a few things stand out. The first is that silver moves in the second half of precious metals bull markets. And I think that we're coming into the second half of a precious metals bull market. In precious metals bull market, the fear buyer comes first, and the fear buyer goes to gold. But when the momentum is established by gold, the more volatile metal, the poor man's gold, silver, takes over leadership, moves further and moves faster. The very fact that silver is out of favor coming into what I believe is the second half of a precious metals bull market is really intriguing to me. The most volatile of all asset classes that I know in commodities are reasonable quality silver equities. There just aren't very many of them. And when the metal itself delivers momentum and the generalist investor's money tries to squeeze itself into the silver equities, there isn't enough market cap to hold the money. I've seen it happen twice before. Our mutual friend Doug Casey describes the result as trying to siphon Hoover Dam, a big American lake, through a garden hose. It doesn't work. It's just an awful lot of fun. Now, there are probably 100 purported junior silver miners worldwide, most of which only have silver as a name on the share certificate. That is to say, they're silver miners, except they have no silver. One might reasonably expect them to underperform in a good market. There are, however, 15 or 20 speculative candidates that I think will do extraordinarily well. And when I look back over my own career, I look back really to the early days of my career, watching Coeur d'Alene mines go from, this is not a typo, 10 cents to $60. It's a big number. I remember being involved in the recapitalization financing for Silver Standard at 72 cents with $1.25 warrant, and seeing it go in 7 years to $45. I remember leading the first financing of Pan American Silver at 50 cents and seeing it go to $42. So the reason I'm doing the Silver Summit is, while I don't expect actually moves in that order of magnitude this time around, I think that 5 baggers and 10 baggers involving reasonably good companies could be fairly commonplace. And I like the fact that I get access to all of that upside in a sector where there's almost no competition, where there's no investor favor. I like, too, I guess because of the fact that I'm pushing 70 years old, that I've seen this happen 3 times before in my career. I might make some new mistakes this time, Shay. That's always possible. But I've made the old mistakes, and I've learned through things like the Uranium Summit, the Uranium Bootcamp, how to help investors if they pay attention avoid the worst mistakes that they might otherwise make. So I'm really attracted to it. We're going to have some of the most successful silver entrepreneurs over the last 50 years, Ross Beatty, Bob Quartermain, talk about how you build multi-billion-dollar silver companies, talk about how their experiences can help investors understand the do's and don'ts of silver. We're going to have an overview of the silver industry, the same way that we had an overview of the uranium industry in the Uranium Investors Bootcamp. We're going to talk about how to own physical silver. We're going to talk about how to own certificated silver. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of silver ETFs, but mostly we're going to talk about the silver equities. And that's an easy thing to do because the number of good ones relative to the total number of entrants is very low. So we'll be able to use real world examples. We will have exhibitors. And Shay, exhibitors, as you know, at my conference, every one of them are owned by me or by accounts that I manage. Now, that doesn't guarantee that, sadly, every stock I ever bought goes up. What it does guarantee is that I know the companies that will exhibit with me well enough that I have invested in them personally. At most conferences, the qualification to be an exhibitor is a check that cashes. My standards are somewhat more rigorous.
So, just to add a qualifier to this, one of my rules to investing when it comes to being an ordinary retail investor is follow what big money does. Now, I don't know what your bank balance, Rick, is, but I do know that you have decades of experience in this sector. So, if you have personally invested in these companies, it is somewhat of a qualifier for the average retail investor.
Understanding that my time frames are a little longer, and I'm willing to be much more aggressive.
Of
But
course.
I think for investors who understand that the payoff might not occur in 12 months, I mean, it might occur in a week, but it might not occur in 12 months. What really intrigues me about the silver business, Shay, what intrigued me about uranium was the certainty. What intrigues me about the silver business is the upside I personally have experienced and the lack of favor that silver finds itself in, the lack of competition to get involved in these companies relative to the upside, and also the propensity of silver investors to invest in narrative rather than arithmetic, which is to say the small amount of money that comes into the silver sector goes to the stories. It doesn't actually go to the viable silver companies, which is, aside from the fact that I'm sorry for the victims, hugely amusing to me personally.
I'm going to quote you on that. I love that. Now, Rick, you have been extraordinarily generous with your time today. I thank you so much for today's interview. It's been a lot of fun. Now, for anybody who does want to attend the Silver Summit or the Silver Boot Camp coming up on February 11th, there will be a link in the description of today's chat. So you can click on that and you can go through and you won't want to miss out on it because it is very important, as Rick says, to invest on arithmetic over narrative. Rick, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Again, you've been great. I love today's chat, and I hope to speak with you soon.
I hope so, Shay, and I hope you come and visit us in Florida again. It was fun hosting you at our live conference and taking you out on the boat cruise.
Yes, actually, I was looking at flights last night, and I can tell you I left with a very sore head the day after that cruise. there was some regret. All right, Rick, thanks again for being here. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.